Okay, XLE has been absolutely firing on all cylinders higher. It's not only, beautiful alpha, but it's also safety with defense and some other defense contractors and defensives. I think it's getting a little bit extended. I mentioned that, but if oil pops higher, we're going to get continued strength in XLE. I've mentioned this several times, so I'm going to go over it again. I am bullish. Oil, once it put in this bottom, and then you can't see it, but it's a morning star reversal. So I said it has to, and that was if it couldn't hold 93, it would go down to 75 to 77 area, right? It did. And then it bounced. It had to hold this level, right? This 82.50. Oops, let me get out of the way. And it did, but it still hasn't closed, right? And now it really has to get above and stay above firmly. And that's all I'm going to say about that. This, we're going to call it kind of 94, 95 area. I don't want to get too crazy here. So if we can get and stay above this on a weekly, it'll be very bullish. So there's that. But here's the level. Okay. So it is starting to look bullish. And I know a lot of people are getting very bullish about this, but just think for a second. Midterms are coming up one way or the other. The positioning for calls in crude, in oil futures, right down to USO is unprecedented. There is call mania. So let's pretend I'm an evil market maker for a minute. What do I want to do? I want to collect all that lovely premium and take them out, right? So my I don't know. I've raised teenagers. That's how I always look for the opposite action, because that's typically then they revert to the norm after. So if I was a betting woman, I would say that they're going to crush the bulls. They're going to crush the bulls and then take it higher. That's me. That's just a cynical me. But in the meantime, we got a lot of room. I'm going to move that over a little bit. That's me. That's just psychology. It's not necessarily, my chart says bullish. Robert says options are, open interest is not, but the call mania is. So I'm just looking at this going, you know what? We got 80, what did they say? 82? What was the one I just said we have to stay above? 82.50. So we have to stay above 82.50 for this inverse head and shoulder to move higher. And we're like 92.50 right now, but $10 is nothing for oil, right? I mean, we have oil, we have Nat Gas this morning moving up 11%. So I want to go talk about Nat Gas. I know I got 2 minutes left. So a little pop up here on ULSD, crude, obviously trying anyway to get above that kind of 94 area. And this is natural gas, like, look at this puppy. All right, so here's the deal with Nat Gas. This, as I mentioned, this support, 4.9, right? Or it has to get and stay above this area. I had already drawn this line. This is not something I drew this morning. This was already there. So we are literally playing between this kind of, we're going to call it what it is, 7.3 and 4.9. 4.9 to 7.3 is a massive area. So if it falls back inside this channel, guess what? It has just as easy a time heading lower back into the chop. But if it gets above this 7.3, oh my, that's very bullish. So far, this head and shoulders has obviously really worked. Little breakdown. Now it's bounced up. I don't know if it's going to stay here, but it's still, to me, not bullish until it gets above 7.3. In the meantime, this is just wild. This, to me, it just has to get above that 7.3. And then we got a problem. Like, there's some problems going on. So there's something else I'm watching. A colleague tuned me into this, and I thought, that's not a bad idea. Oil, another way of trading this, not that we can very easily, but this is Saudi Arabia. Okay, so you know that their entire market is based on oil and gas. So just take a look at this. This is the Taduel, I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure, but the point is this is forming a potential head and shoulder reversal if it breaks down, or this is stabilizing and moving higher. I actually like using this because it corresponds really well with oil. So I'm watching this to see if we're going to break down or break up. I know it's another little random thing that I have, come up with, but just humor me. Let me just see. We're really, really coming into a lot of inflection point here for oil. I don't even like that one, but I'm going to just kind of do that for right now and see what happens. But anyway, as far as a short, if we're going to break above, this has to stay above 7.3, right? Otherwise, I can see a case where we kind of fill that gap and head back down to 650. On UNG, we just went into the underside of that exact trend line, right? So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks of red. We came down to 1743, which was monthly. We bounced. By the way, remember my 1839 was the measured move of that head and shoulders? It works so well, doesn't it? Okay, so we've bounced right into resistance again. So that's the underside. This is monthly. There's a whole bunch here. I don't know what else to say. To me, I mentioned this, in UNG, if we can get and stay above 23, it's bullish. But we're not there yet. We literally have just rallied into everything of resistance. But it's making oil and gas assets obviously pretty busy this morning. All right, let's go through this. So we've got Nat Gas right into resistance, 23 basically. We have stronger oil and gas as a result. But what happens if this Nat Gas move is fake, number one, and moves back down into the channel? That's stronger than I thought. This is where I expected. So this 23 is now the tell. We really, really need to see how it's going to perform at 23 on UNG. That's all. I mean, obviously, it's very bullish above 91. It has to get back inside. That looked like it was doing really well. It got all the way to 88. I was just looking for 85. So the fact that oil is moving higher, Nat Gas is obviously up 11% this morning, is causing XLE to move higher, not lower. I just happen to think it's a little extended. So this is when I start to go, we're outside the Bollinger Band. We should soften. Well, we haven't gotten outside the Bollinger Band, but we're tagging this high. Maybe it's nothing to worry about. We obviously have strength in that whole patch. But if we do get a dollar bounce, then I would not be surprised if oil comes back in and Nat Gas as well. But right now they're both all very strong. Still a run higher in XLE. That's clearly been the beast. And that's the one that I'm most worried about, reversion with election. That's basically it. And oil is higher on maybe potential higher CPI. That could be. CPI is, what is it? 15% year-over-year increase in energy costs. So even though the gas at the pump might be lower, the utility bills are not. Heating oil prices, utilities, and transportation costs for fuel are all up significantly year over year. And that keeps CPI very bid. So I think a lot of folks are excited about consolidation and moving higher. I'm actually nervous about a softness because it's too extended. That would be lovely if it stayed above 27, 28. But big picture, it really, really has been in a channel, right? Big, big moves. It has to get and stay above 28.88. Yeah, so these oil and gas plays that have a lot of nat gas underlying are going to be strong today. EQT, LNG is okay. That's actually European. SWN. They're really, and Ann was right about that. It looked like a big rollover, but she had calls for January. She's like, no, I think they're going to do okay. And she's doing just fine. They need to stick the landing though, right? This is a lot of resistance. We squiggled here for weeks before a collapse, and now popped right back up into it. Very, very dramatic. Let's see what happens. I went a little bit late, didn't I? So we were up 11% yesterday. We're down. Take a look at Nat Gas. Yesterday I mentioned this was a Nat Gas price. We literally had rallied right into my exact resistance level, right? 7.31. If and when we get above that, it's very bullish. In the meantime, we had a gap to fill and we have now filled it. So we were up 11% yesterday. We're down 7.5%. Okay, this is the channel. I just don't think it's going to be that easy, right? That was a bull trap as warned. We've basically got to fill a little bit of levels here. Now, if we break below, for those who did short yesterday, 6.5, you got a nice little channel here. I can put another little very, very short trend line here just to see. Hold on. Just to see how we do. Not going to put that here. Yeah. A little dotted one, because it's not in any way meaningful. It's just a little bit of a line to say if we get tight in this wedge, or we're just going to break right down and come down. Because remember, this is still the risk, 4.9. So between 4.9 and 7.3, there's massive amount of, chop and scalping. All right, so Nat Gas came right back in perfectly. I mean, we're talking perfect tag yesterday, right? So this was monthly. I said the only way this is bullish is if and when it can get and stay above 23.12. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks of red. We stabilized. I'm using UNG just for charting purposes because so many have played UNG. But anyway, you can see how we rallied right into resistance and got rejected. So we're right back into the fold. And this is still really a nice level from that measured move short to 1839. We're basically just kind of snaking here, right? So wouldn't surprise me if we make a little run back down. Then let's see. I'm going to put this. Yeah, so we're still going to be in this area. Let's call it 19. So Nat Gas is on the weaker side today after a rejection at resistance.